in your experience at the UT Energy Institute, you're in Texas, energy capital of the world, home to legacy oil and gas corporations, some of the biggest in the world. What have you seen in, say, the past decade versus what's happening now in terms of how advanced energy views folks who come from that side of the fence?
There are a couple of things. One is the University of Texas trains a lot of the people that go into the energy industry because of our proximity to Houston, as well as to the operational locations like the oil fields where we're producing oil and gas. So UT for decades or century plus has generated these people, and those people often become leaders. So the CEOs of many prominent energy companies, like in the past, ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil, that kind of thing, it's not unusual for them to come from the University of Texas. And for the last 15 years, I've been a faculty member. Energy has been a hot topic for all 15 of those years because it's either the high prices of the 2006 to 2008 timeframe, it's the recovery going on in the Obama administration on clean energy and everything else. So I just, for a long time, have been watching the energy industry be interesting to students. So incoming students really want to work on energy. But a couple of things have changed recently on that, which is the type of degree programs the students want for energy. More and more want to go into mechanical engineering to work on clean energy, say, as opposed to petroleum engineering. So petroleum engineering, which is the #1 program in the world, isn't as big as it was before because the students are voting with their feet for different disciplines. So that's changed. And the types of jobs they're going for is changing as well. So the students aren't chasing the traditional oil and gas jobs quite as often. They might still work for an oil and gas company, but they want to work in the new energies part of that oil and gas company. So there's a lot of change in what the students are pursuing and what they want. And then the recruiting's also changed in that I used to have a clean energy jobs newsletter because there weren't that many clean energy jobs. And when I was aware of one, I would send it out to my list, and I've got a couple thousand subscribers and this kind of thing. But now there are so many clean energy jobs, I can't do the newsletter anymore because there's just too many things to post. And there are so many other clean energy placement firms and things that have popped up. So the student interests have been strong for the last 15 years, but shifting a little bit on discipline. The market side, for the labor market being like where the jobs are, that's changed a lot. And a part of that is also like, what about the people who already have jobs in oil and gas making the transition? I think from my view, the renewable energy industry is happy to have oil and gas engineers. They're usually well trained, they're usually very experienced, they have skills around project management and safety and things like that that'd be very valuable for renewable energy. But that doesn't mean the oil and gas people always want to make the switch. So I don't know where the holdup is, but we have a labor market on one side desperate for people, and we have the oil and gas industry laying off people or not growing. You think this could solve itself, but somehow there's a gap there.
Well, I've spoke to some in the kind of labor advocacy realms for advanced energy, saying that there are technicians and engineers and electricians who very easily would transfer from O&G to advanced energy fields. And anecdotally, I have seen some comments, and I noticed you responded to one on Twitter in the last week or so about anecdotally, is there some kind of stigma from advanced energy toward oil and gas? But you seem to think that may be mythology.
I don't see the clean energy companies having stigma for oil and gas engineers. I see oil and gas employees having not wanting to go to the renewable energy companies necessarily, and there are a couple of reasons for that. But but I think the renewable energy industry just wants people who are trained and skilled and experienced, and the oil and gas industry has a lot of them. And there are a lot of people I know who said, I spent 10 years in oil and gas, and now I'm doing wind farms or whatever. That enhances their credibility because it feels like, oh, you got this much experience. Like, that's not a problem. But there are two things going on, I think. One is that the pay scale in renewables tends to be lower than oil and gas. It tends to be a less dirty, less dangerous job, and therefore pays less. And if you're paid more, you don't want to see your pay go down. The renewables industry is also much less likely to lay you off. They don't have these mass waves of layoffs the way oil and gas does, because the oil and gas world has this exposure to commodity pricing, which has price spikes and price collapses, but electricity doesn't go through the same kind of thing really. And so it's just a little more stable. So you can pay people less if the job is safer, cleaner, and more stable. And if you're going from oil and gas renewables, you might not like that trade-off if you're used to the higher pay going to the lower pay. That's one part. The other part is there's been a rivalry philosophically, politically in the news for a long time. And if you grow up thinking oil and gas, if you grow up in oil and gas thinking renewables are the bad guy, it can be a hard leap to make to join the bad guy. It might feel like you're selling out or you're giving up or you've changed your views, that kind of thing. And I think that's so more personal. I think there are a lot of people who just don't want to do it. That's anecdotal. I have zero evidence to back that up, but that's a sense I get from the conversations I have.
Does it seem like that's changing with your student group that's coming in, that it's no longer as black and white?
Yeah, for new students coming in, it's very different than people already. So like the students coming in, they want to go into energy. They think energy is exciting. They think there are jobs there. They see the growth. They want to work on different forms of energy. They're often children of oil and gas people, and they don't want to go into oil and gas like their parents. So that is certainly already happening with students. I think the bigger challenge, the people who are already in industry and have been in industry, say 10 to 30 years, and therefore have 10 to 30 years of career left, them making the switch, and that isn't happening as readily as I would hope or would think, especially when you have a labor market situation where the clean energy labor market is desperate for people. And it's desperate for people at the energy firms building wind farms or solar farms and installing batteries, but also accounting firms, legal firms, HR firms, all these other firms that need to get smarter on energy because there's a lot of growth in those fields.